night of the blood moon was a time of ancient terror, a time when the veil between worlds was at its thinnest. The villagers of Ravenswood knew to lock their doors and hide their children, for on this night, the shadows came alive. Lena, A.R., young and curious journalist, had always been drawn to the supernatural and the unknown. She saw the blood moon as an opportunity to uncover the truth behind the strange occurrences that plagued Ravenswood. As the moon rose high in the sky, casting an eerie red glow over the village, Lena set out to investigate. The villagers warned her to stay indoors, but Lena was undeterred. She walked through the deserted streets, her camera at the ready, capturing the strange and ominous shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. The wind howled and the trees creaked and groaned as if warning her to turn back. As she walked, Lena began to notice that the shadows seemed to be growing longer and darker, twisting and writhing like living things. She felt a chill run down her spine, but she pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. Suddenly, she heard a faint whispering in her ear. "Turn back, Lena. This is not for you." But she couldn't see anyone around her. The whisper seemed to come from all directions, echoing off the buildings. Despite the warning, Lena continued her investigation. She followed the sound of distant drums which seemed to be calling her deeper into the heart of the village. The music was hypnotic, drawing her in with an otherworldly allure. As she walked, the shadows seemed to grow thicker, coalescing into dark, humanoid forms that seemed to watch her every move. Lena's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to back down. The drums grew louder, and Lena found herself standing in front of an ancient, ruined church. The doors were open, beckoning her inside. She hesitated for a moment, but her curiosity got the better of her. As she stepped inside, the doors slammed shut behind her, plunging her into darkness. The drums stopped, and an oppressive silence fell over the church. Lena fumbled for her flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. Suddenly, a faint, blood-red glow illuminated the church. Lena saw that she was not alone. A figure stood at the altar, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. The figure began to speak, its voice low and hypnotic. "You should not have come here, Lena. Now you will never leave." Lena tried to run, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. The figure began to chant, its voice rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. Lena felt herself being drawn into a dark and ancient ritual, one that she didn't understand. As the blood moon reached its zenith, the ritual reached its climax. Lena felt a searing pain, as if her very soul was being torn apart. She screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of the drums, which had started beating again. When the ritual was over, Lena stumbled out of the church, her mind reeling with the horror of what she had witnessed. She saw the villagers, their faces twisted into grotesque masks, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They began to move towards her, their movements slow and deliberate. Lena tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She was trapped, caught in a living nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. As the villagers closed in around her, Lena realized that she was about to become a part of the ritual, a sacrifice to the dark forces that lurked beyond the veil. She screamed, but her voice was lost in the howling wind. The last thing Lena saw was the blood moon hanging low in the sky, its red glow illuminating the twisted faces of the villagers. Then everything went black. The next morning, the villagers found Lena's camera, lying on the ground outside the ruined church. The footage was disturbing, showing Lena's descent into madness as she faced the horrors of the blood moon. The villagers knew that she was gone, taken by the shadows that night. From that day on, the villagers whispered of the blood moon's power and the terrible price that Lena had paid for her curiosity. They knew that some secrets were better left unspoken, and that the darkness that lurked in the shadows was best left undisturbed. The blood moon rose again, casting its eerie glow over the village. The villagers locked their doors, hid their children, and prayed for the dawn. For on this night the shadows would come alive once more, searching for their next victim. As the years passed, the legend of the blood moon grew, and people whispered of the terrible things that happened on that night. But the villagers knew the truth, and they knew that they had to be careful, for on the night of the blood, as the years went by, the villagers grew more and more cautious, taking every precaution to protect themselves from the darkness that lurked in the shadows. They boarded up their windows, locked their doors, and stayed indoors on the night of the blood moon. But despite their best efforts, the darkness seemed to seep in, creeping into their dreams and filling their hearts with fear. They knew that the blood moon was a time of great power, a time when the veil between worlds was at its thinnest. One by one, the villagers began to disappear, taken by the shadows on the night of the blood moon. The villagers were consumed by fear, and they didn't know what to do. A young girl named Sarah, who had always been fascinated by the supernatural, decided to investigate the disappearances. She spent countless hours researching the history of the blood moon and the strange occurrences that had been happening in the village. As the next blood moon approached, Sarah felt a sense of trepidation. She knew that she had to be careful, but she was determined to uncover the truth. On the night of the blood moon, Sarah stayed up late, watching the shadows dance on the walls. She felt a chill run down her spine as she saw the darkness seeming to move of its own accord. Suddenly, she heard a faint whispering in her ear, "Get out while you still can." But it was too late. The shadows had already begun to stir, and Sarah felt herself being drawn into their dark world. As the moon reached its zenith, Sarah felt a searing pain, as if her very soul was being torn apart. She screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of the wind howling through the village. When the night was over, Sarah was gone, taken by the shadows like all the others. The villagers were left to wonder what had happened to her, and to fear the darkness that lurked in the shadows. The blood moon continued to rise, casting its eerie glow over the village. The villagers knew that they would never be safe, that the shadows would always be waiting for them. And so the village of Ravenswood was abandoned, left to the mercy of the darkness that lurked in the shadows. The blood moon rose and fell, a constant reminder of the horror that had taken place. Years later, people would whisper of the cursed village, of the darkness that had consumed it. They would tell stories of the blood moon and the terrible things that happened on that night. But the truth was far more sinister. The darkness that had taken the villagers was still out there, waiting for its next victim. And when the blood moon rose again, it would come for them, casting its eerie glow over the landscape and bringing terror to all who crossed its path. The legend of the blood moon lived on, a cautionary tale about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond human understanding. And the villagers of Ravenswood were never seen or heard from again, their fate a dark and terrifying mystery that would haunt the generations to come. The blood moon's power was not to be underestimated, and those who dared to tempt fate would suffer the consequences. The darkness that lurked in the shadows would always be waiting, patient and eternal, ready to strike when the time was right. And so, the story of the blood moon became a legend, a reminder of the horrors that lay beyond the veil of reality. It was a warning to all who would listen, a reminder to beware the darkness that lurked in the shadows and to never tempt fate. The blood moon rose and fell, a constant presence in the night sky, a reminder of the terror that it brought. And the villagers of Ravenswood were never forgotten, their fate a dark and terrifying reminder of the power of the unknown.